Plato's Charmides, day 6. Day 7. Then the wise man may indeed know that the physician has some kind of science or knowledge, but when he wants to discover the nature of this, he will ask, what is the subject matter? For the several sciences are distinguished not by the mere fact that they are sciences, but by the nature of their subjects. Is not that true? Quite true. And medicine is distinguished from other sciences as having the subject matter of health and disease. Yes. And he who would inquire into the nature of medicine must test it in health and disease, which are the sphere of medicine, and not in what is extraneous and is not its sphere. True. And he who wishes to make a fair test of the physician as a physician will test him in what relates to these. He will. He will consider whether what he says is true, and whether what he does is right in relation to health and disease. He will. But can anyone pursue the inquiry to either unless he has a knowledge of medicine? He cannot. No one at all, it would seem, except the physician, can have this knowledge, and therefore not the wise man. He would have to be a physician as well as a wise man. Very true. Then assuredly wisdom or temperance, if it is no more than a science of sciences, and of the absence of science or knowledge, will not be able to distinguish the physician who knows what concerns his profession from one who does not know, but pretends or thinks that he knows, or any other professor of anything at all. Like any other artist, the wise or temperate man will only know the man of his own trade and no one else. It could be that what's happening here is what John said, Socrates often does, is he's demolishing the idea that wisdom is a techne amongst other technes, so that being wise means having technical knowledge or knowledge of the technes, the arts, which is not art as we know it. It's art as technical knowledge, technical know-how. So wisdom is not that, having technical knowledge, technical know-how. Maybe that's what's happening here. That is evident, he said. Yeah, a lot of things that is evident, which I just don't see apparently. But then what profit, Critias, I said, is there any longer in wisdom or temperance, which yet remains? If this is wisdom, if indeed, as we were supposing at first, the wise man were able to distinguish what he knew and did not know, and that he knew the one and did not know the other, and to recognize a similar faculty of discernment in others, there would certainly be a great advantage in being wise, for then we should never make a mistake, but should pass through life, the unerring guides of ourselves and of those who are under us. To make a mistake. To never make a mistake. We should not attempt to do what we did not know, but we should find out those who know and hand the business over to them and trust in them. Nor should we allow those who were under us to do anything which they were not likely to do well, and they would be likely to do well just that of which they had knowledge. And the house or state which was ordered or administrated under the guidance of wisdom, and everything else of which wisdom was the lord, would be sure to be well ordered. For with truth guiding and error eliminated, in all their doings men must do nobly and well. And doing well means happiness. Was not this, Critias, what we spoke of as the great advantage of wisdom? To know what is known and what is unknown to us. Why do we want wisdom? Is it just so that we can avoid making mistakes? Is wisdom intended to be this tool for having a well-organized life, organization? For eliminating error? I cannot even imagine mankind without making mistakes. But I can imagine the pressure of being expected to never make mistakes. That does not feel like wisdom to me. It feels as if there's more wisdom in the compassion of forgiving yourself and others their mistakes. Sometimes we might make meaningful mistakes. Sometimes we might make meaningful mistakes and yet we cannot forgive ourselves. That is not wisdom. Very true, he said. And now you perceive, I said, that no such science is to be found anywhere, no such technical system of knowledge is to be found anywhere. I perceive, he said. May we assume then, I said, that wisdom, viewed in this new light as a knowledge of knowledge and ignorance, has this advantage, that he who possesses such knowledge will more easily learn anything which he learns, and that everything will be clearer to him, because in addition to the several objects of knowledge, he sees the science, and this also will better enable him to test the knowledge which others have of what he knows himself, whereas the inquirer who is without the knowledge may be supposed to have a feebler and less effective insight. Are not these, my friend, the real advantages which are to be gained from wisdom? And are not we looking and seeking after something more than is to be found in her? It may be, he said. I suppose wisdom does have to be some sort of tool to help us eliminate mistakes if we are to see wisdom as a tool to help us get out of the meta crisis. It may be, he said. Perhaps it may, I said. Or perhaps again we have been inquiring to no purpose, as I am led to infer, because I observe that if this is wisdom, some strange consequence would follow. Let us, if you please, assume the possibility of this science of sciences, and not refuse to allow that, as was originally suggested, wisdom is the knowledge of what we know and do not know. Assuming all this, let us consider more closely, Critias, whether wisdom such as this would do us much good. For we were wrong, I think, in supposing, as we were saying just now, that such wisdom ordering the government of a house or state would be a great benefit. Several things are happening inside of me as I'm reading this. I'm also obviously not in a good mood. Resistance to the idea that wisdom is equated to knowledge. But then what comes up in that is it's only unfair if the knowledge that we speak of is propositional knowledge, because not all of humanity is equally capable of acquiring propositional knowledge and keeping propositional knowledge. I forgot the other thing. How so, he said. Why, I said, we were far too ready to admit the great benefits which mankind would obtain from them, their severally doing the things which they knew and committing the things of which they are ignorant to those who were better acquainted with them. Well, we were not right in making that admission. I think not. How very strange, Socrates. It is strange to say that it's not wise to let the people who have knowledge of something take care of that. And yeah. There I said, I most emphatically agree with you, and I was thinking as much just now when I said that strange consequences would follow, and that I was afraid we were on the wrong track. For however sure we may be that this is wisdom, I certainly cannot make out what good this sort of thing does to us. What do you mean? He said. I wish that you could make me understand what you mean. I dare say that what I am saying is nonsense, I replied. And yet if a man has any feeling of what is due to himself, he cannot let the thought which comes into his mind pass away unheeded and unexamined. I dare say that what I am saying is nonsense, I replied. And yet if a man has any feeling of what is due to himself, he cannot let the thought which comes into his mind pass away unheeded and unexamined. Tot zover ons skriflesing.